Hi everyone, I'm Gemma Stafford, professional chef, cookbook author, and your host of Need to Know, the #1 baking entertainment podcast, where we dive into tips, trends, and tasty tidbits that bakers love most. Whether you're a long-time listener or just joining us for the first time, welcome. This week we're doing something a little bit special, a handpicked collection of our favourite moments from past episodes. These are the conversations we couldn't stop talking about, sharing, and replaying. So whether you're in the kitchen, on the go, or just here for some baking joy, this is your chance to relive the best of Need to Know or discover what makes it so beloved. So let's jump right in.
Something else I saw that I thought was really cool, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is there was one woman who posted self-care as baking.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before in the past, and I've always said, baking is my love language, or cooking. I love to show love in that way, but I never thought of it as it was showing love to myself. So the TikTok specifically said, here are 6 psychological reasons that baking is self-care. So the step-by-step process is a form of mindfulness. The repetitive movements are calming and reduce stress. You're engaging in touch, taste, sight, and smell, and is a form of grounding and is tied to happy memories for many people. The creativity provides an escape for your stress. A set start and end point provide control and purpose, both of which reduce the feelings of overwhelm and depression. And then the last one is the result is so sweet and it's meant to be shared with others.
Aw. I really like that. And number one, it's all true. Like as bakers, you know that that's all true. But I like the one, I even just the start and the finish point of knowing that like when you're going to be finished, you're not stressing about like when is this like, about your kind of like your time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That one really resonated with me too, because I feel like, I bake sometimes when I'm overwhelmed, and having that like, okay, I know for this 30 minutes, I'm uninterrupted
Yeah.
in that kind of way. But is there anything like that you like to bake when you're in those moments? It's like, I'm baking this for self-care.
When I'm stressed, I don't, you know what? I don't go out of my way to deliberately do something for self-care, which I should. Like, I don't think when I'm stressed, I'll go downstairs early and start cooking. Um, or if I just need to like step away from my computer, I will head downstairs at like 4 o'clock and I'll start to get dinner ready. Um, the one thing I just realized about, and I didn't know this about myself when we're getting ready for shoots, or I need something like, sometimes if I need to have a cookie made for the podcast or whatever, I don't do it until there's nobody around. And I don't think I knew that about myself, but it was just like, this is going to be much more enjoyable for me if no one is around. So, anytime even if I'm doing a little video by myself, like, and the house doesn't have to be empty, but I wait for like George to be like in school or on a play date and Kevin is out the back and I just get left alone for that, like, hour and a half. I listen to my podcast and I just like chill out.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's funny, I don't really think about like, oh, I need to feel happy or I need to calm down, so I'm going to bake. I don't think of that as a solution, but I do think that that is a result. A few episodes back, we had the opportunity to talk to Joanne Chang, and she talked about how baking makes her feel alive. And I've really like held on to that because I think that's it. And I do think it connects back to this list of you have this sense of control, you have this focus, everything else can disappear. But really, like I feel like there's this sense of vibrancy and just being alive that comes from having some control over this creative endeavor and n- having a goal in mind. I'm going to bake this to share it with somebody. But I don't know. I mean, I think it does produce all of those feelings, but I would never, if I'm feeling sad or depressed, I don't think, well, now I'm going to go bake something.
Right.
But it does produce these wonderful feelings.
Yeah, I do think it gives like when I do it, and I think it was that Zoe, when we talked to Zoe Francois, I think she said something very similar. It's purpose. It's like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And throughout my whole career, when I thought at one point of changing careers, I was like, no, like this is what I do. I don't do anything else and I do it well. So don't go change direction now. So it definitely gives me a purpose. And that's also my role in the family is I cook, and it's not because I'm the woman, because Kevin also cooks, but like I cook, I take care of George, I make sure he's fed, I make sure that Kevin is fed and that we're all taken care of in that way. And it's kind of primitive, I suppose, but that's kind of like, I feel like that's my job.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of goes back to that. It's almost like your love language too.
It is my love language,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made this my whole career. Like ever
Yeah.
since I was a child, I often, we talked about this before. Who do you do it for? Do you do it for yourself? When you're making, when you make a big batch of cookies, are you making it because you want to sit down and eat a batch of cookies? Usually the answer is no. You make it to share. So you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it because it is your love language to share with other people. And that's the sharing is a lot of where the fulfillment is.
Another really big trend we're seeing this year is the rise of better for you bread. And I'd love to explain just what that means for those listening if you've never heard of better for you bread. It basically is a bread that's made with health-focused ingredients or methods designed to offer more nutritional benefits than conventional bread. Breads often include higher levels of whole grains, fiber, protein, lower levels of sugar, salt, and artificial additives. They might also feature nutrient-dense additions like seeds, nuts, ancient grains, or ingredients that appeal to specific diets like keto or gluten-free. And so I wanted to get both of your thoughts on these types of breads, if you've ever had them, what your thoughts are on them, and if they compare or how they compare really to making bread at home.
So I have a few thoughts on these. They're totally doable to make at home. I will tell you that these breads often contain alternative flours, like not traditional flour. They can be quite dense, or they can rise and they'll fall. So it's a little bit harder to make these breads than it is at home than it is traditional bread. And then you also luckily can buy really good ones out there on the market. But I have a recipe that I'm going to share with you guys at the end of this episode for a keto bread that we have on the website. And the base of that, so it's kind of higher protein, and it's almond flour, eggs. It doesn't contain any grain. It's easy to make. It is a little bit stockier, but it tastes good and has a nice texture. So I'm going to share that with you guys, and you can let me know what you think. But they're good. You have some really good options out there.
Yeah, there's lots of different brands from Nature's Own Keto Loaf, Dave's Killer Bread, Ezekiel Bread, which I feel like that's the one I've heard of the most. Alvarado Street Bakery, Happy Campers, and they're all within the range of around like $5 to $9 for a loaf. So I do feel like if you need a bread option like that, they are very accessible.
I'm actually going to go get my loaf for you right now, which is a keto bread that is on our website, and that is almond flour, egg whites. It's high protein. It has no wheat flour, and it's really nice.
Well, I'm excited. I can't wait to try.
Okay.
Me too.
So have either of you tasted a keto bread before? Help yourself to a slice.
Ooh.
Oh,
I don't know. Oh,
it's good.
that's my piece. I don't know if I've ever had a specific keto bread.
I haven't. Look at that, it's so tender.
This is
Mm.
almond flour, egg whites, some flaxseed, a little bit of raising agent, some apple cider vinegar, and boiling water. So it's very simple bread.
Gemma, you have a lot of fun, what I'm going to call copycat versions
Yes.
of things on your website, and I want to talk to you about them. The first one is your copycat version of Cheez-Its. Looks really delicious.
Yes, those are good. And in the same vein, goldfish crackers.
I'm excited to try them. How, in your experience with making them, do they compare? Have you ever compared yours to store-bought ones?
Ours tastes more cheesier. I will tell you, they don't stay as fresh as long because they're all natural ingredients and real cheese. And the other ones are like drier and it's cheese powder. So it's different. They don't stay as fresh as long. But what I do, I make them. I cut out the dough. I freeze. I bake them off however many we want. I freeze the rest, and then I bake them off fresh when I want them. And they'll last for a few days, but I put them in George's lunchbox.
Oh.
But that's what I do to I don't bake them all off at the one time.
But while we cannot talk about pizza and not ask this question, I need to know, do you think pineapple belongs on pizza?
I am down with pineapple on pizza.
I don't mind pineapple on pizza. I find it to be sort of bright and tangy and sort of like it's a nice contrast to the sort of richness of the pizza. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't, you know what I don't love when you have a Hawaiian pizza, the Canadian bacon.
No, that's, I was about to say to you, the ham, whatever you, pancetta, like kind of really good quality, thick rashers or something.
Yeah.
Canadian bacon is not my
So,
jam.
but I guess like a lot of times when you get a Hawaiian pizza, I think the thing that people don't like about it is it's kind of like gummy. Like that
Yeah,
ham, it's
'cause it
kind of
makes
has
it
this like,
wet.
yeah, it's
you're
like sort of like a
right.
gummy, weird thing. But if you've got like a better quality, like a prosciutto
Yeah.
or something a little more fancy or elevated, and then
Yeah.
you've got your pineapple and maybe a little spicy.
Yeah.
It's good.
I will tell you, George Kurtz loves loves a Hawaiian pizza.
Does he?
Loves that. That's his pizza. And if I make one here out of my pizza oven, he'll eat the whole thing. But he's good though, because like when you go places at a birthday party or whatever, he knows now that there's not Hawaiian pizza. He's like, I'll just have cheese. But he loves Hawaiian pizza. And then recently he said to me, next time you make me Hawaiian pizza, will you just do pineapple? So
That's a George special.
yeah. But you have to, but I wring out the pineapple though in my hand because a whole pile of juice comes out, and I'm very careful about what ham I use. Because you could just, it really like elevates, it could really like make it really good. And I dice it up really small. I love a Hawaiian pizza.
So I do too, and I thought this was going to be such a controversial topic for us, but I'm glad that we all agree. I do too. I don't know if it's growing up here. It just felt like it was really common, that Hawaiian style pizza.
Yeah. I will tell you, and I'm going to, this will be the last thing I say on this topic, is we didn't mention Roberta's. And Roberta's is from New York. But I went up one day and George was like, ask the man, do they do pineapple? And this is not the place where they sell $28 pizzas. So they do pineapple. And I was kind of like just mouthing to the man, like just this, he likes pineapple. Can you just like pretend that like, whatever. And I was like, I have to ask you, but I don't mean any offense.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you have pineapple on your pizzas? And he was like, no. And I was like, cool. Thanks for playing along.
Yeah. There's a pizza place here that has a big sign that's like, we do not have ranch. Do not ask for ranch. We will not give you, we will throw you out if you ask for ranch. And so people are particular about their pizzas. But Ami mentioned that you make really good pizza.
Yes, I have to say, out of all of the things, people always ask me, what's your specialty? And I never have a good answer. And pizza, I think, is now my specialty.
Yeah.
And I can confidently say that.
What are some tips or tricks that make it so
Oh my gosh.
good?
I'll try and condense this for you. I got this pizza oven from Italy around 8 years ago. This company sent it to me as part of a brand deal, and I really wanted the oven. But my point is, I've had it for 8 years, and I feel like only now, and I don't use it every week. I wouldn't even use it every month. Only now have I really gotten the hang of it, of working the pizza oven. Now, over the years, I've developed different doughs, and I've changed my doughs. I started out doing doughs in a machine. I started out doing was it David Leibovitz's New York Times dough, and I thought that was really good. Then I realized I don't like that one anymore. So but then I started doing my no knead dough, which is on biggerbolderbaking.com, and I found that really good for a while. And then I altered it, and I kind of thought this is missing something. So through the years, I evolved the dough, and now I'm at a point where I ferment my pizza doughs for 72 hours. So if I want pizza on Saturday, it has to be in the works on Wednesday.
Oh, wow.
Has to be. And if I miss my Wednesday date, then I'm not having pizza on Saturday. I can maybe have it on Sunday, but I won't shorten that time period. I use now 00 flour.
What's that?
Which is durum wheat flour.
Oh.
In Italy, it's a very finely milled flour that they use, that they would use in pasta making, and it's lower protein than bread flour, which I thought was interesting because I thought you needed higher protein, but it's lower, but it yields you a very light, soft crust.
Can we stop for 1 second? I just want to know, why did pizza become this internationally loved food?
It's bread and it's cheese. And it's sauce. What's not to love, Ami?
I don't know. I just
French fries.
people
Why
are
do we
so
all
obsessed.
love French fries?
Yeah, the greasiness.
'Cause
I don't
it's a
know. It's like you see
Yeah.
these like people who are like, I have my pizza oven and I have this, and like I'm so into pizza. Like the fact that there's pizza week. Like, what is our obsession?
I
with
will
pizza?
tell you. I'll tell you my thoughts on that, and I think I'm coming from I think I'm coming from a place of authority. Um, every as a content creator in January, as a baking content creator, people are always like, "Oh, I'm sure January is really quiet for you," and it's not, because we do not focus on sweets. We focus on savory baking. We focus on doughs. We focus on breads, and we focus on basics, making your own homemade ingredients. And we've done that for many years, and it's always worked for us. And one savory baking thing, and also happens to be a dough, is pizza. So it always is good because people still want to bake. They still want to get their hands dirty. They still want to get, like, into the kitchen and like make something. And the thing about it is it kind of serves a good purpose, because it can also be your dinner, and like, it's homemade, and you can make it as healthy as you want, or like, it's just, we always see a big uptick in pizza in January. So it makes perfect sense to me why it's big in January.
Yeah, I think too there's probably a level of, creativity of like when, pizza night, you go to a friend's house, everyone's making their own toppings. Like I feel like there is a lot of satisfaction in making pizza that you
Yeah.
don't get necessarily when you make regular dinner. Like because it has that more, it's
Customizable.
yeah, it's more baking. I thought we could talk about experimenting with baking alternatives. And so while you finish those cookies, I'm going to explain what that means. So, what is experimenting with baking alternatives? It basically means trying new or non-traditional ingredients or methods in baking to achieve specific goals or address things like dietary preferences, restrictions, or just creative desires. It often involves substituting standard baking ingredients with alternatives to create something unique or accommodate different needs. So, to put it a little bit more simply, substituting things like butter, eggs, flour, what can you use in place of those things in your baking? So, not necessarily for any particular reason, but just what are options to use. So, I thought we could kind of go down that list, starting with butter,
Mhm.
and just talk about some alternatives.
Ami and I have done different research on this kind of stuff. And the good thing about it is, like, today, there's a lot of alternatives. And they're not, I remember like years and years ago, if you wanted to replace eggs, you would have to go to like a health food store and buy egg replacer, because we
Right.
didn't really know what else to do. Um, but now, and the good thing about it is that like some of the substitutions available are, they could be stuff you have already at home, like applesauce and mashed bananas.
Mm.
And they can also be used in place, like butter. You can use applesauce, but you can also use applesauce to replace eggs.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
So lots of them can be used for different substitutions. So like I said, applesauce is a good one. We always have applesauce in my house.
Mhm.
Um, for butter, in the melted variety, you can also go with like melted with coconut oil,
Mhm.
Mhm.
which as long as you're okay with that flavor. Like there's melted butter in this cookie, you totally could have put coconut oil in this cookie,
Mhm.
which would have just enhanced that coconut flavor even more.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's yogurts, nut butters, a source of protein, but also
Mhm.
like fat and oil.
Mhm.
Ami, what you got?
Avocado. It's fatty. It's it's I've not done a lot of experimenting with it, but I know that you can use it as a butter substitute. There's so much oil, natural oil in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and it's really mildly flavored. You might get a little bit of a green tinge
Yeah.
in things that you make. So depending on what it is that you're making.
Yeah. You mentioned smashed bananas
Yeah.
already for eggs. Are there other alternatives you can use for eggs?
For eggs, loads. I have a chart on biggerbolderbaking.com that has, this is so crazy, but it was for years and years, was our most popular single post on the website, was how to substitute eggs.
Wow.
And the chart lays out exactly the quantity of like how for, however many eggs, use this. And that was applesauce, like I said, mashed bananas, tofu. You can use flax egg, which is ground flax, not the seeds, but actually
Mhm.
ground flax. Some people use chia seeds. to replace eggs. Like I said, silken tofu. For egg whites, people do use aquafaba. Aquafaba can be a little bit tricky and a bit temperamental. I've baked with them. I've had them turn out well, but not every single time.
I wonder if when that post, it was probably before this, but if that egg conversion chart was really popular during, we've kind of already talked about
About COVID.
COVID.
It was very much during COVID, but
Yeah.
we created this, I'd say I made it in 2018, 2017, something like that.
I just
Even
remember,
maybe even earlier. This substitution, when the whole, the country and the world ran out of flour, everyone was at home baking. But their recipe that they looked up asked for cake flour. It asked for eggs. Eggs were actually like super rare and you couldn't find them. And this chart and all my bold baking basics recipes, like how to make cake flour, how to make vanilla, how to make your own cream cheese, how to make your own butter, went off the charts.
I'm sure.
Absolutely off the charts.
You couldn't buy eggs here in LA. I remember I was one of these people. I wanted to make brownies, I think. And I used smashed banana. And that, when you were saying that made me think of it.
How did that turn out?
I mean, you could taste the banana.
Uh-huh.
It was almost tasted like brownie banana bread.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately the issue with certain alternatives with anything that emit a flavor. If you want that flavor, we did an experiment once where we made the same pound cake recipe 6 times, but we did something different with butter. We did applesauce, silken tofu, banana, flax eggs.
That's fun.
There was a couple of other things, and they all had slightly different results. But I do remember using yogurt or silken tofu.
Yeah, the yogurt one. Remember that?
Yeah, those were
They ended up being heavy.
but they were good in that they didn't change the flavor of what you were trying to make. Whereas the applesauce cake and the banana cake were delicious, but one tasted like apples and one tasted like bananas.
Yeah.
So if you're not going for that flavor, you want something a little more neutral.
Yeah.
Flax eggs, if you have, which you brought, you might have a banana over ground flax. But ground flax are very good for you. When this is probably like what Ami would do, but like replace bananas in pancakes with like a flax egg and stuff like that. And like I do that in George's. I put like ground flax into his pancakes. It's a nice little added nutrient boost.
Yeah.
And also I feel like they're not very fatty. It's not very fatty, so it stays fresh in your cupboard for quite some time. Or you can keep it in your fridge if you want to.
What would be some good alternatives for white flour?
Well, whole wheat flour, for sure. Like you can replace on most baked goods. You could replace half your white flour with whole wheat flour. You're going to get a heartier result, but it won't be bad. I think what's hard is if you do 100% whole wheat flour of something, it tends to get heavy,
chewy.
But yeah. But even like a quarter to a half of whole wheat flour is always it can actually add flavor. It can add a nuttiness to things. You and I, Gemma and I, have done some experimenting with like making like gluten-free flours.
Yeah.
We did one.
So we made an almond flour mix that could be replaced for all-purpose flour. And it was almond flour and tapioca flour. And we found through our testing that if you go to biggerbolderbaking.com, it tells you exactly how to use this flour mix, and not just in my recipes, but you can for cup, you can use this mixture.
Oh, wow.
And for any of your gluten-free baking, you need the tapioca flour. Without it, it gives the flour your almond structure, and it makes it more elasticy and more like a regular flour. Whereas when we just replaced almond flour for all-purpose flour, we made a muffin that was really oily, like all of the wet ingredients just soaked out of the muffins and the cake and everything. They were really heavy.
Right.
So
it didn't quite have the structure.
No, it didn't. So we came up with a really good solution, and that's on biggerbolderbaking.com. And I show you how to use it in different recipes, and then I tell you how you can use it in my recipes, and then I tell you how you can use it in your own recipes. And almond flour is lovely because it gives you a little bit of protein. It's expensive, but it is a lovely flour to nut to bake with.
Yeah.
It gives you a nice texture.
I remember when you made us the keto bread.
Yeah.
Was that with
Mhm.
that was with the almond flour,
Yeah.
right? And I remember it had like a moist
It does.
moisture to it.
Yeah, it does. As when it's used, when you get the right balance, it can soak up the liquid and make, like lovely, like flourless chocolate cakes really moist and spongy and everything.
Amazing.
Right, right. I mean, I think that when you're thinking about flour substitutions, you think about like what is flour adding to your baked goods, and you've got sort of the bulk of the baked good is the flour, the structure, elasticity. So you want to be able to recreate that in an alternative flour. The issue with alternative flours is they don't have gluten, which is what you're trying to avoid, but the gluten provides the elasticity. So what else will give you that?
Yeah.
Uh,
So it's all trial and error. Like not everything is created differently. Like oat flour will absorb liquid differently than almonds will. So it's not one for one. These are not one for one. So definitely whichever one you choose, do your research. And I will tell you, if you are gluten free, or if you are doing gluten free baking, something that I've had, which I'd say is kind of foolproof, is one for one King Arthur's gluten free flour or Bob's Red Mill's gluten free flour.
mhm.
And I find I've never had an issue with either of those.
Yeah, I've had to do that before. It can be intimidating when you have to substitute with a gluten-free flour because if it's not the one-to-one, you kind of have to do conversions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was making a cake for my boyfriend's mom, and she was at the time not eating gluten. And so I got really intimidated to do it. And then I think it was the King Arthur's one for
Yeah.
one. And I was nervous. It was my first time. You're making a cake for a bunch of people. And it actually turned out really good. And then
Mhm.
I didn't tell anybody that it was gluten free. And then they were like, wow, this cake is so good.
Yeah.
It's like, it's gluten free. I was really proud of that. Now, I want to know, have you two seen the influencer and baker on Instagram and TikTok? His name is B. Dylan Hollis, and he takes these old recipe books and like really outdated recipes and makes them on TikTok, and he's hilarious and funny, and he does it in a very funny way. But I saw one that was like a bean pie, and so he's like opening a can of beans, or just like weird things that you don't see often nowadays. But I saw him make this interesting recipe. It was called Anzac cookies / biscuits. I'm not 100% sure, but it's an Australian cookie. I thought we could kind of talk about those cookies and like, had you ever heard of Anzac cookies before?
Yeah, I used to make them a lot as a child.
Really?
Yeah, like I know them pretty well. We would get a lot of influence from like Australia. And I think I had Australian cookbooks and stuff. And, being a kid who made a ton of cookies, Anzac cookies was one that was like really easy to make. And it contains golden syrup, which is an ingredient that we bake with a lot in Ireland. Put the recipe in I'm thinking now, my first cookbook, in the first chapter, wooden spoon and bowl, because you can make them like by hand just with a wooden spoon and bowl.
Oh, wow.
And they're delicious. I actually made you ladies some here today as a treat.
Oh my gosh.
And they are oats and some coconut, a little bit of flour, golden syrup, sugar, the usual suspects. There's no spice or anything. They're simple, they're caramelly, they're really delicious, and they're like a little bit salty.
I'm
Yeah.
excited to try it. I had never heard of them before seeing his video, and I was so curious.
Yeah. It seems, I mean, it's sort of like an oatmeal cookie, but golden syrup is sort of a unique ingredient in that.
Yeah.
And what is golden syrup?
Golden syrup is an inverted sugar. So it is like, we don't have corn syrup in Ireland.
Mhm.
And outside of the US, I don't know, I'm pretty sure it's hard to come by. If you think about the way Americans have dark golden syrup,
Mhm.
it'd be something like that.
Uh-huh.
But it has, yes, like a strong caramelly flavor. So it's an inverted sugar, so you can replace it with honey, but then you do get a stronger honey flavor.
Mhm.
So it has more it's like a caramel syrup,
Uh-huh.
But like I said, honey would be a good substitute.
Mhm.
Honey would give it nice flavor, but sometimes people find honey a little bit overpowering.
Sure.
So let me grab the cookies.
Okay.
Vito,
Whoa.
hit me with the cookies, Vito.
Oh my gosh.
So look at those.
Smell them.
They smell so
Aren't
good.
they pretty? But like, I was going to hold it up here. They're like golden brown. They're thin. They're biscuits. So they're like kind of crisp.
I was going to say, when
They're
you
a
say
little
they're a
bit chewy.
biscuit, what do you mean? Like,
Like,
because that just looks like a cookie to me.
Yeah, like it's See how like I think you'll see the difference when you taste them.
Yeah.
They're crispy. Biscuits are crispy.
I see.
Where cookies in America are kind of soft and chewy a little bit. And not every single one, but like this is what we would call. We would never have called anything a cookie, even though some stuff are cookies, but our word is biscuit. They have golden syrup. They have golden syrup, yes, but they have baking soda, which you have to activate. So you put it, you dissolve it in a bit of hot water, and then you put it into your wet ingredients, and it bubbles up, and that's why you get this crinkle. And it's really it like makes them look really good, and they smell really good. Taste them. I'm like, just coconut and stuff. I'm just talking. You look at them.
Stop talking. I'll try it.
They're just caramelly and delicious, and they're such a great cookie for kids.
Oh my goodness.
Aren't they yummy? I would make these all the time as a child. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube. Thank you for listening to wherever you listen to podcasts. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let your friends know about Need to Know. And we will see you back here again really soon. Thank you so much. From HRN and the Bold Baking Network, you are watching the Need to Know Baking Entertainment Podcast.